want to live a long and healthy life? Would you like to know how to achieve that result? I'm Jill Hewlett, brain fitness expert and wellness authority, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Dustin Widger. And we're here to put the lens on this very important matter that's relevant to all of us, healthy longevity. In just a short amount of time, we're going to bring in our mentor and friend, world-renowned health and longevity expert, Dr. Joel Wallach. But in the meantime, to get started, how about you share a bit about your background, Dustin, because I know you love what you do and you're very good at it.
Well, thank you very much, Jill. Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm a certified fitness clinician and a holistic health coach. So I help those that want to recover, transform, optimize their physique and overall holistic health through prescribed exercise, nutrition, and mentorship, guidance, support, accountability, all those things. And this Doc Wallach message is something I really try and include in that for sure.
It's so important. It's so important. And clearly we're passionate about the same things, educating and empowering people on how they can make positive, healthy lifestyle changes. So Dustin, doesn't it sadden or shock you how many people are just hoping, praying, crossing their fingers that they don't become the next statistic relating to premature aging and disease?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely saddens me. It doesn't shock me. The general population is kind of been brainwashed into the whole medical system thing, and it's kind of coming out more and more now. But this generation, we've been exposed to a lot of propaganda. I mean, I saw the other day the same thing. You turn on the TV, we're around the corner from the cure. And they show a little science clip with a bunch of medical professionals under the microscope, and some doctor comes on who's a specialist, and it's very authoritative and pretty, and it seems like, okay, they're very convincing, but we spent $2.3 trillion on healthcare, and in 1 year, that's what America spends. Then they're the leaders in modern medicine, right? So we spend all this money, and we're 92nd in healthfulness, okay, 60th in longevity, and 41st in survivability of our newborns. Okay, and this is pretty tragic. And third world countries have better numbers than that. Even the centenarian ratio. In North America, in industrialized nations, 1 in every 10,000 people live above 100. In these third world countries, 1 in every 500 person is above 100. So they're doing traditional stuff and doing fine. We're doing all this fancy stuff and suffering because of it. Like heart disease is number 1 still, cause of death for the past 100 years. Cancer is still number 2. So obviously, chronic disease isn't working out so well, from North American perspective, right?
It doesn't say a lot for modern medicine, and there are much easier and more effective results, and that's why I'm so excited about this conversation and the information we're covering, because it's time people had solutions that they can implement and that work. Well, when you start to give the body what it needs, it can do amazing things. And this is more of what I like to call common sense uncommonly practiced. And what better person than yourself, and interviewing here with Dr. Joel Wallach, Nobel Prize nominee, winner, recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award, and sharing his knowledge and research because it's outstanding.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I mean, I've got to meet Doc a few times, asked him a million questions, and now we decided to get it on camera because this is something that can benefit us all. And you're not going to hear about this in the mainstream news. Okay, Doc's kind of competition for the big companies, right? And good competition. So if you want to help yourself, this is the step 1 in health. For sure.
It's the number 1 big one. And I've had the opportunity to interview Doc Wallach several times on my wellness TV show years back, and it was always very enlightening, educational, eye-opening. We always learned and took away a lot. And so this time around, I'm going to pass the mic over to you so you can lead the interview with him. And I know it's going to be fantastic.
Well, I can't wait. Appreciate it so much. Okay, we are here with the legend himself, Dr. Wallach. Thanks for coming in, man.
Well, thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you coming down. Jill set us up here. And we got lots of questions. I want to just kind of give a broad, picture for people that haven't heard of you. But Doc, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and...
Sure. Okay, well, Justin, the thing that makes me different, I think, is I have a degree in agriculture. My major is in animal husbandry and nutrition. My minor is in field crops and soils. I have a degree in veterinary medicine. I also have a postdoctoral fellowship, which is the equivalent of a PhD degree in comparative pathology, doing autopsies on animals and people. And then I do have a degree in naturopathic medicine. I've been a naturopathic physician since 1982, licensed primary care physician. And so I have those 4 aspects which I draw from anytime I talk to somebody or try to figure out a patient's health problem and decide what to give them. So I'm a little bit different than an MD or an ND or a DO or a chiropractor.
So you really have a broad perspective, obviously.
Exactly.
And it's all about nutrition. It all ties together, right? So.
Well, yes, I did one big project with the National Institutes of Health back in the 60s and 70s. And in that project, I did 20,000 autopsies, 17,000 some change of over 454 species of animals, and 3,000 humans, and 10 million chemistries looking for pollution problems. And the basic gist of that study was that every animal, every human being that dies of what we would call natural causes dies of a nutritional deficiency disease. And we learned that all vertebrates, whether you're a human being or a crocodile or a hummingbird or a turtle or a fish or an elephant, requires 90 essential nutrients. 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. And you get those things, you reduce your risk of diseases, and you live longer. You don't get those things, you increase your risk of disease, and you die earlier.
Wow. Okay. So we skipped ahead a bit there. I want to go right into that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get that project? Before what was your career? Comparative pathology
Right.
started before that, right? And then.
Mm-hmm. Why me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I asked myself. Well, prior to going to university, during the summer times, I used to work with Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom show. You're probably too young to remember that show, but he was the biologist on TV before the Crocodile Hunter. Okay. And so I worked for him maybe 5-6 years during the summer times. And when I graduated agricultural school, I was already into 2 years of veterinary school. And so I was a graduate student, even though I had 2 years of veterinary school left. I began to take comparative pathology courses towards my PhD degree, which turned out to be a postdoctoral fellowship. And I ran into the first mass die-off of pollution in America. Now, people had theorized it and they predicted it, but somehow it landed in my lab. Did all the chemistries, got it published in peer-reviewed, refereed scientific journals. I actually went around the states and the world lecturing on it because I was the first guy to discover it. Gave Perkins a copy of it because he was one of my first male mentors who was not a relative. And he helped me get a job in Africa, working in the White Rhino Conservation Project and the African Elephant Conservation Project. Caught 200 white rhino, sent them back to the States. So if you see a white rhino in a zoo or wild animal park, it's either one that I caught or offspring that I caught.
Wow.
Moved 100 of them around in Africa and caught 100 elephants, adult elephants, and cold branded them to track their movements. So I was really into these large animal conservation projects. Well, 2 years into that, Perkins sends me a letter. Said, Wallach, I just got a big grant from the National Institutes of Health to study pollution as a contributing cause of death in animals in big zoos in the United States and Canada and Mexico and North America. And we're looking to see if pollution is a contributing factor to non-infectious diseases, epidemic diseases, things we think of as being natural causes. And you're the guy. You wrote the first paper on a mass die-off in America for pollution, so we're picking you to be the pathologist on the project. And of course, I was, wow. So I said, I can always go back to Africa, so I'm going to take this job. Went back. I worked for 12 years on it. Did my 20,000 autopsies, 10 million chemistries. And the book that came out of it, 1,200 pages, covers all these autopsies and all the chemistries. And the work showed that every animal and every human being that dies of natural causes, not trauma, not infections, but just heart disease, liver disease, lung disease, brain disease, that kind of stuff, that are attributed to age or genetics or autoimmune, those diseases are all caused by nutritional deficiencies.
So this whole thing with Marlon Perkins, I mean, how did he get that grant? I'm curious. How did that tie together like that?
Well, the St. Louis Zoo, of course, had a high profile because of his association with the Mutual Omaha Wild Kingdom show. But it wasn't too far. It was really right across the highway from Washington University. And a very well-respected university, medical school, Barnes Hospital, teaching hospital. And he and the head of the biology department there, a fellow by the name of Barry Commoner, who had actually run for president on the Independent Party several times on the basis of saving the environment, eliminating pollution, this sort of thing. Those two guys together applied for a grant to study animals that die of natural causes in the big zoos in North America and people who live within a 10-mile radius. What they wanted to do is use the zoo animals as the old Welsh coal miners used to use canaries. The canary in the mine story,
yep,
where the Welsh coal miners would take the canaries out of the mine. And if gases would leak into the mine that were either toxic or that would suffocate you or explode, the canaries would die first, and they'd see the canaries drop off the perch and die. They would flee.
Test run kind of thing.
Yeah, they would flee, and were able to survive. Well, Perkins had the very good idea that if we did the same thing but using zoo animals, there's 400, 500, 600 species of zoo animals in big zoos in big cities. There's bound to be a couple of species that would give us an early warning of pollution, imminent danger from pollution. And since I wrote the first paper on the mass out from pollution, they wanted me to be the guy, be a pathologist in the project.
Wow. So pathology, this big project's awesome. We're going to get a bit more into that, but just talk about pathology, because, first of all, not a lot of people do this, would you say?
No, it's a very small club, if you will. And this is, like a hospital might have 200 physicians, surgeons, and general practitioners that work for the hospital, but there's usually one pathologist. Okay? And so it's a very specialized piece of the medical system where somebody dies, you go to their house, you pick up the body, and by law in most places you have to do an autopsy to find out were they murdered or they died of natural causes. And so those are the sort of things you learn to do as a pathologist. And you also learn the causes of death of animals or people that are in experiments. They're either on drug experiments or new drugs or nutrition experiments or vaccine experiments. And in some cases, at the end of the study, let's say there's 50 animals in the study, you have to kill them all and then do autopsy, see if the drugs or the whatever vaccines cause any problems, kind of thing. And so this is where, as a pathologist, you have to know normal anatomy, you have to know the normal physiology, you have to know the normal biochemistry, and you really have to know more than a practicing physician. You take into account all the clinical records. And in many cases, the physicians would be treating for diseases the patient didn't have, but they died of something the doctor didn't even know they had because he was a bad diagnostician.
Pathologists know more than the doctors.
Oh, than a practicing physician. Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's why I like pathology, because you can always find the answer. There's no unknowns.
There's also I think I read in epigenetics, there's a big difference between animal autopsies and human autopsies, in that they leave out the cause of death or something. They don't explain that it's a deficiency.
In human beings, they don't. In human beings, they say died of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And everybody assumes that's natural causes and this and the other. And so in animals, there's 5 different types of heart attack. We want to know which one it is because each one is caused by a deficiency of a different nutrient.
So why is that? Why wouldn't we take it to the next level for humans?
Well, medical doctors do not get 1 minute of nutritional training in 8 years of school. They have dietitians and nutritionists for stuff like that. That's low stuff. They're into surgery and pharmaceuticals.
Really?
It's kind of an ego thing. This is something that, we don't need to know that because that's something that some dietitian can know.
So right at the top there, they're simply kind of just leaving out a very important thing.
Well, of course, because nutrition is everything. We cannot run without nutrition. Now, the interesting thing to me, Dustin, is that every century there's thousands of failed medical theories. Going back to the days of the pharaohs, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years ago, there's failed medical theories at the rate of thousands per century. And the 20th century and 21st century are no different. All of the big medical theories of today are false. It's a pretty profound statement, but it's true.
Really?
All the medical theories today that we think of as guiding us to be healthy are false. With all the technology we have, with all the new things that we've brought into medicine, Americans are less healthy than we used to be. And the scary thing is our children of your generation, my generation, will be the first generation of Americans who do not live as long as their parents. Most people will be burying their children, will be standing at graveside burying their children.
So our age is going up, our life expectancy is going down.
It's going down.
Yeah. Okay, so this big project, let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You basically led this thing, was a big think tank of a lot of different scientists, right?
Well, there were biologists, and they were into the ecology out there in the world looking for pollution, right?
Yeah.
They were looking for sources of pollution, and they chose me to be a pathologist because I had written the first paper on the first mass off in America to be recognized and tracked down and identify all the scenarios and why it happened. Got it published. But I was the only pathologist.
So you're kind of like the center guy, right?
Exactly, because if they'd pick up a roadkill on the highway and bring it in, it was a coyote or a deer, I had to know, was the deer or the coyote hit by the car because he had rabies and was just out there being stupid on the highway because he had rabies affecting his brain? Or was was the deer being chased by a pack of coyotes or wolves, and he was fleeing and didn't pay attention to what was around and got hit by the car? Or was the deer, did he have some kind of other debilitating thing that led him to go out there in the highway? Or was it just mating season and he was taking on anything that invaded his territory? Did it head on with the car? I mean, he had to know all these things. And so, again, I accumulated the data for 17,000 some change of death of over 454 species of animals and 3,000 humans. That book was published in 1983, and it was published by the largest medical publishing house in the world, W.B. Saunders. And the original price of those books was $140. Everybody said, you'll never sell them because most textbooks were being sold for $25, $50. And they thought that was high. But they sold these for $140, and they sold 10,000 copies 2 weeks. And then, 10,000 books in 2 weeks. Now today, those same books, if you can find one on a used book sale online, if you get them where they're covered in coffee stains and been highlighted and dog-eared and underlined and so forth, obviously been used heavily. If you can find one for less than $2,500, you better get it. The ones that are in perfect condition, still in the box, have never been cracked. The binding has never been cracked and opened. They're selling for $17,000 for each book.
Now, this book is called The Diseases of Exotic Animals.
That's correct.
It's the medical and surgical management. And it's a 1,200-page book. Apparently, you were supposed to do a couple chapters and then ended up writing the whole book or something?
Well, yes. I was supposed to write just a couple of chapters of the 20, I think it was, 28 chapters. And what happened was the other designated authors, each one was supposed to be a specialist in the chapter on reptiles. Another one was supposed to be an author on small cage birds like finches and canaries. Another one was supposed to be an author on wild dogs like wolves and coyotes and so forth, and dingoes in Australia. But it turns out they wrote one paper from somebody who had a pet wolf and who died of something, and they wrote it up. But that was it. They had no other experience. Well, I had already autopsied wild dogs. I had already autopsied several hundred, and foxes, and dealt with the birth defects from nutritional deficiencies in the females while they were pregnant, and developed into birth defects in the babies. And so I had all that, and did chemistries and autopsies and slides of special stains. Plus, I'm a veterinarian, and it was very easy for me to look up, because we didn't have computers in those days. I had to go to the library and by hand look through thousands of books and journals, scientific journals, looking for any paper that's written on them. And then each chapter had to have the normal blood values, the normal chemistry of the cerebral spinal fluid, the fluid, the vitreous in the eye, normal organ weights and colors, and then diseases they might get have been reported, and things to anesthetize them safely so you could do surgeries, and how to prevent birth defects in these animals, and so on. And so it's quite a big project. Well, the editing people and the publishing company would call me and say, okay, well, Dr. So-and-so has backed out because he doesn't want to do all the effort necessary to make this a respectable chapter. Would you take this one? Yes. 3 months later, said, hey, this guy backed out, and in reptiles, you've already done maybe 1,500 autopsies on different reptiles, crocodiles, and
should have wrote the whole book from the beginning, right?
Exactly. But they wanted it to be a multi-author textbook because it was such a big project, and they never thought in their wildest dreams that one person would have all that experience. And so I wound up with the entire book.
We describe the pathology lab. We're going to get into disease and stuff in a second, but some examples of like a typical day or a couple jobs that you do.
Sure. Well, the pathology lab consists of many parts. Number one, for big animals, you have to have, like a big double garage door would open up and the trucks would back in. And then you had hoist on tracks. So you'd put chains around their legs and you lift them up. It might be 5 tons for an elephant.
Oh, yeah.
Or a Clydesdale horse. Have to lift them up.
You've autopsied an elephant?
Oh, many times, yes.
Oh, sorry.
All ages. And rhino and hippos and all kinds of large ungulates, things like big antelope and giraffe. Think about a giraffe, they're 20 foot tall.
That's
And
not an easy job.
that's not an easy job. But when they're laying down, they're only 3 feet tall. And so, just about 454 species of animals. You're talking about a wide range, everything from shrews and little critters this big, a couple inches long, hummingbirds, half ounce, all the way up to elephants, 15,000 pounds. Now, in a little bitty hummingbird, you would use tweezers and a scalpel and a little bitty fingernail scissors. An elephant, you needed an axe and a chainsaw. You had to use different tools for different jobs. The fingernail scissors wouldn't work very well on a 15,000 pound elephant, so you had to use different tools. And then there was an immediate laboratory there. And you take samples of each of the organs, and you take photographs of them and the colors and everything, weigh them. But the samples you would take, you'd put in formaldehyde, and you'd request certain stains because you're suspicious of certain diseases. You might require a special stain to identify that change. And you pass that into the laboratory. And I had technicians there who would make slides for me. I could look at it under the microscope in the next 24 hours. And then if it looked like they had an infectious disease, we would take swabs of the pus or the juice coming out of the wounds or whatever, and we could culture it and see if it had a bacteria, virus, fungus, or yeast. We also took the contents of the intestine, looked for any parasites they might have, check that all out. And even though there was no changes, let's say that the animal might have died of congestive heart failure. We'd still take the brain and the spinal cord out and look for any changes in there, do all the chemistries. So we're accumulating normal chemistries as well as chemistries of diseases, also looking for pollution. So we're taking all the blood. We're looking at every possibility. And so each autopsy was more than just opening up and saying, oh, he died of a heart attack and closing him. Well, each autopsy was a big project in itself. And so these 20,000 autopsies probably was the equivalent time of doing 100,000 autopsies, because we spend so much, because we did so much time on them. Even the human beings that I autopsies were much more complete autopsies than even a forensic pathologist for the state or the county or something like that. And as a result, I've been an expert witness many times in state and federal courts because few people have the experience I have. And when they have these big complicated cases, and the results of the trial will be related to the determination of what you find in all the tissues and chemistries of that autopsy. I can tell them if there's something missing. If the tissues were saved, we had to go back and do all that and add that to the material before it could go to the juries and things like this. So I've been involved in quite a few things based on those autopsies.
So this process, I mean, you didn't invent this process, so it's almost like criminal that it's not, this whole idea of discovering what the disease is isn't like talked about more, and isn't in humans, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And of course, we talked about these failed medical theories. The big ones in human medicine are cholesterol and saturated fat contributing to cardiovascular disease. That's not true. Type 2 diabetes being genetic. That's not true. Autoimmune diseases where your body's attacking itself. None of that's true. Birth defects are caused by genetic defects. No, that's not true.
You're not a fan of doctors, are you?
Well, they've missed things so badly. And we spend more money for healthcare each year than all the other nations, 204 nations registered in the United Nations. We spend more money than all those 204 nations each year. And we rank 41st in live births and first-month survivability of our babies. Rank 60th in longevity. There's 59 other nations whose peoples live longer than us. There's something wrong with this picture. Then when you look at the other side of the coin, and this is from the Center for Disease Control in the Journal of the American Medical Association, February 5th, 2007, full-page article in USA Today. They said each year in America, medical doctors kill, injure, and infect 15 million patients in their hospitals and clinics. They kill, injure, and infect 15 million patients in their hospitals and clinics. When you break it down a little bit, they infect 2 million people in hospitals each year. This is from the Center for Disease Control, federal agency, not me. And of those 2 million infections, 90,000 die each year. Now, there's no OSHA tickets issued. No doctor gets his license suspended for 3 seconds. And the reason why they got 2 million infections in the hospitals each year, according to the Center for Disease Control, is doctors don't wash their hands after they go potty, something you teach a 3-year-old. Now here it comes. What if North Korea or Iran were to send over an intercontinental ballistic missile with a biological weapon, infect 2 million people in a large population center like Toronto, and kill 90,000 of those? It'd be war, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be war. I mean, even the most anti-war people would sign off on war because they just killed 90,000 Canadians. 90,000. That's each year.
Okay, Doc, so essential nutrition is something you've been driving home. So can you talk about that a little more? What makes something essential, and how do we know it's essential?
Sure. Well, first of all vertebrates, again, whether you're a hummingbird or a crocodile or a human being or an elephant or a rat or a dog, cat, bird, fish, all requires 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. And to be identified and highlighted as an essential nutrient, we have to eat them every day.
Our body can't produce it.
That's right.
Yeah.
We must eat them every day, either as food or supplements. Number two, if you're missing them for any length of time, you get a horrible disease, any one of which can kill you. Okay.
That was proven in the lab.
Of course.
Okay. Through that was through more animal studies and stuff?
Animal studies, and you go back, again, maybe in some cases hundreds of years ago, things like rickets, scurvy, pellagra, beriberi, night blindness. These things are all very simple nutritional deficiencies, and these were the first ones to be recognized as nutritional deficiencies in the 1800s, where before that, the theory was they were caused by germs.
Yeah.
And doctors are always looking for the germ, and they couldn't fix it because of really nutritional deficiency. Once they figured that out, we had those diseases disappear. Well, now they're all coming back. They're all coming back again because none of these nutrients in our food anymore. And instead of playing outside, for instance, little kids, instead of playing outside and playing tag and hide and seek during the daytime after school, they're inside with their iPads and iPods and iPhones. They never go out in the sun anymore, and rickets is just running amok amongst our kids now.
Vitamin D, of course.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's get into different diseases here.
Okay.
So let's start with heart disease.
Okay.
And heart health in general. So there's many different causes of heart disease.
Okay. Well, all heart diseases are caused by two things. 99.9% of them are caused by nutritional deficiencies. And then there's an inflammatory piece. You know, eating microwave popcorn, theater popcorn, oils, salad dressings, cooking oils, fried foods, processed meats with nitrates, nitrites, cause inflammation in the cardiovascular system. Well, let's just take congestive heart failure, one of the more common causes of heart death in adults, caused by deficiency of a single vitamin. We've known that for 300 years. Discovered by a Japanese naval surgeon 300 years ago. Cardiomyopathy heart disease, sudden heart death in athletes. We lose about 10,000 athletes under the age of 25 each year in America alone. Is caused by a deficiency of a single mineral. I've done 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 that have died of that one.
You said 10,000 athletes die a year?
Yeah, in America alone.
10,000?
Under the age of 25. Yeah. On the basketball court, the football field, on the track, soccer field. Yeah, these are the ones you see in the newspaper. They drop dead in high school or university.
Wow, that's a high number.
Well, coronary artery disease is actually caused by inflammation. Things that happen by eating trans fats, heterocyclamines, acrylamides, has nothing to do with cholesterol and saturated fat. The demonization of cholesterol and saturated fat was done by the American Heart Association in 1952 in exchange for a $1.7 million grant by Procter & Gamble. And Procter & Gamble wanted to sell a product called Crisco, but they had to demonize lard, butter, cream, and eggs because that's what Grandma wanted to use for cooking. And so to get people to switch over to Crisco, they had to demonize what Grandma had been using for 500 or 1,000 years. And they also had to make sure it was sexy. And so they came up with a Mediterranean diet.
Olive oil.
Yeah, olive oil. And why would anybody want to live to be 62? Okay, that's the average lifespan of an Italian or Greek in the Mediterranean. But every woman wanted to be Gina Lola Bridget, so they made it sexy by saying, the Mediterranean diet. Now, microwave popcorn is one of the biggest sinful things of clogging arteries. That's why our children are dying before we will now, and people will be burying their children, because they babysit their children with microwave popcorn and the TV. When I was a kid, I grew up with 4 generations in my household. Great-grandmother, grandmother, mom, and me. There was no daycare. There were no babysitters. We're eating our traditional cultural diet that went back thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so we didn't have the problems our kids have today. And then the last one, a coronary thrombosis, where you get a blood clot in the coronary artery, causes this type of heart attack. That's caused by an omega-3 essential fatty acid deficiency, one of the essential nutrients, or a ratio problem between omega-3, 6s, and 9s. So which one of those cardiovascular diseases are caused by cholesterol and saturated fat? None. Congestive heart failure, vitamin deficiency, cardiomyopathy, heart disease, and mineral deficiency. Coronary artery disease is inflammation, and coronary thrombosis is a deficiency of omega-3s.
So nothing to do with genetics either?
No genetics involved whatsoever, no.
What about people that say, obviously it's nature and nurture, but they're healthy, but the thing to go is their heart, or the thing to go in that person is their brain? You think there's still a slight kind of like a genetic predisposition?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, genetics are not involved. Genetics and cholesterol are two of the biggest failed theories of the 20th and 20th century. Genetics are not involved in any way. It's actually called epigenetics. Okay?
And how the environment influences.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, your genes, your DNA, your RNA, and your telomeres, little end caps in the chromosomes, require all 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. And if any one of those things is below the minimum daily requirement or missing, the genes, the DNA, RNA, and telomeres can't work. And so instead of living to be 200, and you're eating the same recipe Grandma used when she ate and she died at 120, you die at 18 of a heart attack, even though you're eating exactly the same recipe for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because everything changed between Grandma's time and your time.
Wow. Okay. So heart disease, not genetic, easily preventable.
And easily reversible if they survive the first heart attack.
Have you had good success stories of people that are far down the line, but you
of course. Many, many times.
How about Vander Holyfield? Can you help him with heart problems?
Well, yeah, sure. He had a cardiomyopathy heart attack during a championship fight. And this goes back, gosh, got to be 15 years ago. Great champ, heavyweight champion. And to make a long story short, we gave him all 90 essential nutrients, a little bit of extra of the secret sauce for heart health. And he recovered within 90 days. He was able to pass the physicals of all the boxing commissions of every country on earth and went back and boxed professionally for 8 more years. Won and lost his championship several times.
It's 100% proof clinically right there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so we do this with athletes, professional athletes, with Olympic athletes, university and high school athletes, little Pop Warner kids all the time, because people who work out and are athletic need more nutrients than somebody who's just a librarian sitting in an air-conditioned library not doing anything.
Absolutely, you're not breaking the system down at all. You're not sweating all the nutrients out, right?
That's exactly right.
I train people exercise-wise, and like you said, some of the people that are in the best shape often aren't in the best shape at the same time.
That's right.
So let's talk about maybe like Theo Ratliff. You had a pretty impressive result with him.
Sure. Well, Theo Ratliff, a great basketball player, was playing, when I met him, he was playing for the Atlanta Hawks. Great defenseman, 6'11", just the ideal basketball player. Yeah. And he had bone-to-bone arthritis in both his knees at age 28, just on painkillers all the time. And then the cartilage popped off his right hip, had to be surgically tacked back down. He caught a pass from a teammate, broke his wrist. Just catching a pass in a regulation game.
28 years old.
28 years old, yep. And, of course, he was told his career was over, nothing to be done. Rebuilt him with the 90 essential nutrients, a little bit of secret sauce to support maintenance, repair, cartilage, and ligaments and bones. And in 90 days, he was able to get his position back.
90 days, that was it.
Yeah. And then he played basketball for another 14 years. He made $140 million in contracts after the orthopedic surgeons for the Atlanta Hawks said his career was over.
Now, do you think he's the best surgeons in the world, apparently, too, right?
That's what they tell you, yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable. How much million?
140 million. Do you think his wife, Christina, loves me? She loves me.
Unbelievable. What other athletes have you worked with?
Oh, Delisha Jones, a great woman basketball player. She was on the women's basketball team in the Olympics for the United States, and she was with them for their first 2 Olympics, and they had gold medals in both of them for women's basketball. They were just the dream team of women's basketball in the Olympics. And getting ready for the 3rd game, 4 years later, she tore her Achilles tendon and her hamstring on the right-hand side. The orthopedic surgeons who put her back together said, look, the odds are you're not going to play with the same skill level as you did before you had this injury. You might want to consider coaching. Well, she wasn't happy about that. And so a mutual friend introduced me to her. We rebuilt her in 90 days using the 90 essential nutrients, the secret sauce for cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue. And she made her position back in the team, and she got her 3rd gold medal with them. Just really a great, great thing. So we do this all the time. We do this with people who are special forces, Navy SEALs, impact injuries, people in car wrecks, all kinds of stuff, and even just degenerative disease. 99.9% of the people that have bone-to-bone arthritis in their knees and hips, they don't need surgery and joint replacements. They just need the 90 essential nutrients, the secret sauce. Their body wants to heal itself. Given they're all the right materials, it will heal itself.
There's a lot of different diagnoses for bone and joint problems. Osteoporosis are all the different forms of arthritis.
Sure.
It's all the same thing, doctor?
Sure. Well, it's just different degrees. It has nothing to do with age.
Down the line of...
Yeah, it has nothing to do with age, has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with genetics. We're talking about osteopenia, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, degenerative arthritis, bone-to-bone arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, bone spurs, kidney stones, periodontal disease, which is just osteoporosis of the face, peripheral neuropathies, where you get all kinds of weird stuff going on in your feet and hands and legs and back because of degenerative disc disease. All that stuff is preventable, and it all goes away, just with the 90 essential nutrients and the secret sauce.
So if you have bone-to-bone arthritis, no cartilage. I have a client that says he feels like there's screws in his knees. He can barely walk. You can completely rebuild that.
Well, the body does it. We just give the body the raw materials, and it has the capacity to rebuild itself. The body wants to heal itself, but your genes, your DNA, your RNA, your telomeres require these nutrients to be able to pull it off.
Okay, so brain disease, brain health, nervous system health. This encompasses a lot of different things, right?
Well, Justin, the brain requires all 90 essential nutrients. Like all the other tissues in the body, it's inescapable. It needs all 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. If any one of those are missing, you get a disease. And we're talking about things like depression, manic depression, bipolar disease. And bipolar disease, when you're in a uniform, is called PTSD, same disease. And then there's depression, and there's ADD, ADHD, autism, there's psychoses, there's schizophrenia, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. These are all caused by nutritional deficiencies. Now, the big one is Alzheimer's disease. This is a physician-caused disease. Did not exist 45 years ago. Today, it's the number 4 killer of adults over the age of 65. And it's caused by a deficiency of a single nutrient, cholesterol. Who told people to get on cholesterol-restricted diets? Medical doctors who wanted you to buy Crisco. Okay? Because they got paid $1.7 million by Procter & Gamble to endorse Crisco. Well, who told people to give up eggs and butter and cream and lard? Medical doctors. Who began to prescribe statin drugs to lower your cholesterol? Medical doctors. And then Alzheimer's appeared.
That inhibits your liver's natural ability to produce cholesterol.
Well, your liver can produce cholesterol, but it's such an infinitesimally small amount. I mean, we're talking about maybe a quarter of a teaspoon a day, and you need maybe a pound of cholesterol a day.
So statin-lowering drugs, you don't think there's that much of an effect on it, or?
Oh no, statin-lowering drugs slam your cholesterol down way too low, and this is the cause of Alzheimer's disease. Cholesterol deficiency is the cause of Alzheimer's disease. Now, you have to appreciate that there's other deficiency diseases from cholesterol deficiency too. Low T, low testosterone, ED, erectile dysfunction, women getting menopause in their 30s and 40s instead of 60s and 70s, and adrenal exhaustion. Why? Because adrenal hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, those 4 major steroid hormones, are all 95% by weight cholesterol. But it's adrenal glands, ovaries, testes, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and adrenal hormones.
Okay,
Now, there's other hormones that are not steroid hormones, like pituitary hormones, thyroid hormones.
okay, okay. Well, let's lead into fertility.
Okay.
So, how, I mean, obviously, this is 90 essential nutrients are
Sure.
important for that too.
Absolutely. And also to have a healthy baby, because all birth defects are caused by nutritional deficiencies of the developing embryo in the first 90 days of pregnancy. And I get more women pregnant every year than Solomon ever did, right? And my wife is the first one to jump in and say, well, it's with nutrition, right? When women get miscarriages, they're not infertile. They were pregnant. They just couldn't handle the pregnancy, okay? And so doctors will say, give me $25, give me $25,000, and we'll give you an in vitro fertilization. We didn't need that. They got pregnancy, you know, having sex the normal way, right? But doctors want to get their $25,000. They haven't dealt with the problem. So what you do is you get these women on a gluten-free diet so they can absorb nutrients, and then you give them the 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids. They will always get pregnant.
And the birth defects are
reduced to almost zero. Now, it always comes down to absorption. Even if you're supplementing with all 90 essential nutrients, but if the mother has an absorption problem because she has a heavy gluten problem, she's not avoiding gluten, she can still have a birth defect in her baby because she might not be able to efficiently absorb the nutrients.
So you mentioned it's dietary stress and the 90 essential nutrients.
That's correct. And you have to appreciate, again, it's not what you eat.
We absorb.
What you absorb. You are not, that's an old adage, you are what you eat. That's not true. You are what you absorb.
Digestive issues are a big problem these days too, obviously. Okay.
Okay, well, type 2 diabetes makes up 98% of the diabetic population. We've known for 80 years that type 2 diabetes is a deficiency of a single mineral. We've known that for 80 years. It has nothing to do with genetics in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't just happen with age. It's a simple nutritional deficiency. And I can make a family, a church family, a neighborhood, a workplace, a city, a county, a country, diabetes-free in 2 months or less.
It's that easy.
It's that easy. It's just like when you have iron deficiency anemia, as a patient, would you want an iron supplement or bone marrow transplant? Doctors always go for the bone marrow transplant. So that's why with diabetes, they're going to do all this testing, and they're going to give you a pump and all this kind of stuff to automatically pump the insulin in, and this, that, and the other. And really what you need is the 90 essential nutrients, 16 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 3 fatty acids, and the secret sauce for diabetes. It all goes away. Okay, nothing about farming practices have changed for 7,000 years. We plow, we plant, we harvest. We plow, we plant, we harvest. The only difference is we're not getting the nutrients put back in the soil because we've dammed up the rivers, no more floods. We're using electricity, no more wood. And that was all a myth.
So the flood thing is really key.
Oh, that's big key, big key. And when you look at the great cultures on Earth, they came up with pyramids and machinery and boats and things. Let's see, the Nile River, the Amazon River, the Rhine River. Okay, you're looking at the Mississippi River. All the big rivers in the world, all these great cultures developed around them because every time the flood would come, they would deposit more minerals in the soil. They grow their food there.
Wow.
Prior to electricity, we use wood for fuel. We put the wood ashes, which are really minerals that the tree had sucked up out of the ground, into the garden. And the plants, the pumpkins and tomatoes and beans and peas and squash and potatoes and onions and corn would suck up these minerals. You ate the food, and unknowingly you got your minerals in that way. Well, when we went to electricity, nobody knew they were getting minerals by eating food fertilized with wood ashes, and so nobody replaced those sources of minerals with minerals when you got electricity. And this was the downward spiral. This is when we had the Great Depression, we had the Dust Bowl. People liked electricity, and there were factories and jobs, and things were booming, but there was an unintended consequence, Dustin, when they made the hydroelectric plants. Flood control. Everybody thought that was the greatest thing on earth, flood control. But
that's another factor, right? There's
another factor.
3 or 4 factors that affect the minerals, right?
Yeah, because what would happen every spring in the most expensive and the most fertile farmland, floodplains? Every spring would flood. Floodwaters recede, leave mud and silt, which are the minerals from mountains, hundreds or maybe even thousands of miles upstream. Did the farmer push the silt off to the side before he planted? No, he plowed it in, renewed the soil every year.
That's what the longest lived cultures do. That's why they're so successful in
because they're all
healthcare, right?
Exactly right, because they're all third world cultures. They still use wood for fuel.
Wow, wow. So But the problem is, though, even if they're using the wood ashes, there's still not a guarantee that they're getting the minerals because the minerals are not in a uniform blanket, right?
Very good, exactly. The minerals appear in the soil like veins of chocolate and chocolate ice cream. As you point out, these top 20 longevity cultures, the reason why they're the top 20 longevity cultures, they, by dumb luck, live in places that have 40, 50, 60 minerals in their soil. Other people who are putting wood ashes in their gardens may only have 3 minerals, they all die in their 20s and 30s.
So the Americans might have been getting, or us might be getting something, but then we stopped using wood ashes, and now we get nothing.
Then now we get nothing.
So you've been in the supplement industry for quite some time, right?
Well, commercially for 36 years. And the reason, of course, was I couldn't get manufacturing companies or other existing supplement companies to come up with what was needed. For instance, you see on TV all the time, people are advertising these high-end vitamin mineral supplements, and a multiple. They say, our multiple gives you complete nutrition, 28 vitamins, minerals. We need 90. So what about the other 22?
Yeah. Does the medical system, do they think what's the general consensus on vitamins and minerals?
They actually think there's about 28, and there's really 90.
So it's mainly the minerals are missing too, right? I guess then.
Well,
or is it a bit of vitamins?
Both, everything.
Wow, they're not too good at their job.
In fact, we were looking at one very famous vitamin mineral multiple, commonly used by chiropractors, and brags about complete nutrition, and it had 5 vitamins and 4 minerals. It has 9 nutrients. We're going to get the other 81, not in the food.
We've been taking vitamins and minerals. They've been on the shelf for a long time. Obviously, the full spectrum is important. But what else?
It's essential.
What else makes your products special?
Okay, well, that's a big thing, to get all 90 essential nutrients in one supplement program instead of having to take 40 different bottles, and then you're not going to get it, right? And so what makes ours special is there's over $100 billion worth of research that was used to capture all the information we needed to make these supplements perfect. And we've taken care of all the ratios, we've taken care of everything being in the right place and so forth, the right dosages, and all you have to do is take the supplement program by body weight, which is something the medical system doesn't do. They say, if you're over 12, take this, if you're under 12, take that. Mm-hmm. And you could be a 12-year-old and weigh 300 pounds. Okay? And so we do it by body weight. That makes us much more accurate, and one of the reasons why we get such great results, but also because all 90 essential nutrients are in there in optimal amounts. Like our Healthy Start Pack is our basic program. It has 245 nutrients, all 90 essential nutrients. And it's designed for perfect biochemical nutrition for 100 pounds of human flesh for a month. You give one of those packs to a 50-pound kid, it's a 2-month supply. You give it to a 200-pound person, it's a 2-week supply. So you really need 2 Healthy Start Packs for a 200-pound person, 3 Healthy Start Packs for 300 pounds, and so on.
Okay, so that's quite simple. But some people seem to think that they need a certain, obviously you need all 90, but they think, oh, I'm further deficient in this, and they try to kind of micromanage it, I guess you could say. Is it that individual, or is it mainly we just need this kind of the blanket prescription?
Well, again, you have to appreciate that all these degenerative diseases are caused by nutritional deficiencies. So let's say you have diabetes. You take the 90 essential nutrients with more of the secret sauce, because the secret sauce, that one mineral that's missing in diabetes, is in there. But if you have type 2 diabetes, you don't want to take 6 months to get better. You want to get better in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. But it's a constant thing because our foods don't have the nutrition anymore. And so people always ask me, well, how long do you have to take this stuff? For life. It's 90 for life. And that's where we got the 90 for life part from.
So if somebody wants to get started, what's the best place to do?
Get in at least as what we call a preferred customer. You get to pay wholesale prices and you get an auto ship. We'll pay the shipping. But if you want to really become a student of this information and help other people, we will pay you an obscene amount of money. Okay? Get car bonuses and travel and cruises and all this kind of stuff based on the a number of people you get involved and how many people you help. I mean, we have people who've been with for 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 years, and some of them are responsible for 500,000 people. Some of them individuals are responsible for 500,000 people. Individuals are responsible for 1 million people. How does that happen? These are high school graduates. These aren't medical people. They're high school graduates because we've trained them through our tools, books like Dead Doctors Don't Lie, Epigenetics, Rare Earths and Cures, these sorts of things. Our CDs, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. One of my favorite ones, the newest ones, is called, the CD is called Public Enemy Number One, and the DVD is called Somebody Needs to Go to Jail. So we're very excited about this.
Wow. And you don't make any money from your sales of the products.
That's correct. I purposely set that up that way because medical doctors in the beginning were saying, oh, you can't pay attention to that WALLACH guy. He's a quack. He's one of those charlatans. He's a very good salesman. Now, he'll sell you anything, including all these worthless vitamins, minerals, so he can make some money. And so I never, when I set up Youngevity, I never took a single penny as a bonus, as a pay, anything. The company, I even had to buy my own vitamins, minerals. They don't give them to me. I set it up that way. And so that takes away that piece from the doctors. They can't say those things. And we're publicly traded, so we have quarterly reports, we have annual reports to meet the SEC requirements. And you'll see very clearly who the people are who are getting paid, what they get paid, what bonuses they get every year, and so forth. And I'm not in there. I'm in there as the founder of the company. But the people who are on the staff who are getting paid and getting bonuses are listed by name and their positions and what they do and so forth. I'm listed in there, but because when it comes to how much you get paid in the bonuses, it's 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay? Because I have to pay for, I set up so I pay for everything.
So one more question, Doc. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you set that up that way just so you wouldn't have people, just, oh, you're trying to sell something, right?
Exactly. No, this is a mission. And of course, when you know these things, how could anybody just go and be a doctor and look at sore throats, which I could do and make a decent living? But the point here is once you're given this information and how you have beliefs or not in God, it's one of those things where you have to say, look, somehow I've been given this information and I cannot sit still and keep it to myself. It's too important for humanity. And so we created this mission we call 90 for Life. And we do great things around the world. Just August 7th of 2015 this year, I received a Lifetime Achievement Award for natural medicine and philanthropy for doing these things by an associate group with the United Nations, kind of a support group of the United Nations, because of all the work we've done in South America and Africa and Asia.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today, Doc. Appreciate all your help, your knowledge, and all the things you've done. You've helped a lot of people, and that's what we're going to try and do now is pass the word on. So.
Well, thank you, Dustin. Appreciate your hospitality, and thank you so much for getting the information out to the people you work with, and we'll look forward to doing great things together.
Okay. Thank you, sir. See you next time, guys.
Well, that was very informative, very educational, and very eye-opening for many, I'm sure. How did you enjoy that interview, Dustin?
It was fun. It definitely wasn't enough time. I had way more questions to ask, but yeah, Doc's an extremely knowledgeable guy and something we all need to spend time learning, really.
Absolutely. And for those who want to learn more, we have our YouTube channel. Doc has many resources, CDs, many books. All his research is captured in those formats. And there's lots of opportunity as he travels the world to go and hear him speak in person. So very shortly, we are going to have him speak here in Toronto, and we're hosting the show, so we better go and prepare for that.
Okay, yeah. And if you need help with anything, guys, our emails and our contact information is below. Reach out to us, and we'll get you on a health and nutrition program as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to be in touch.